How you set it up?
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Rutherford Board of Education of June 25th, 2018. I would ask you to stand and we will say a pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I would ask the secretary to please call the roll.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Here.
Dr. Olati?
Here.
Mr. Healy?
Here.
Mrs. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Librera?
Here.
Mr. Mazzone?
Here.
Dr. Racine?
Here.
Mr. Rowland?
Here.
Mr. McLean?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. And thank you to the members of the public and the Board of Ed for being here this evening. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Rutherford Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place posted on the bulletin board outside of the Borough Clerk's office, mailed to the Herald, South Bergenite, and Record newspapers, and filed with the Borough Clerk. Hard copies of the agenda are available in the meeting room, and the agenda is posted electronically on the district's website at www.rutherfordschools.org. Regular meetings of the Rutherford Board of Education will be broadcast without editing during a 2-hour segment as limited by Comcast time constraints on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. on Comcast Public Access Channel and Fios Channel 38. A video of the meeting can be viewed on our website at www.rutherfordschools.org. The video link can be found by opening the Board of Education link, clicking on Public Meetings, and then Videos. Any member of the public who wishes to view a DVD of the meeting can make that request in writing to the Board Secretary. Board members, in your communications packet were the meeting minutes and executive session of June 4th, 2018. Were there any comments or corrections to be made to those minutes? Having none, I would ask the secretary to please enter them into the record. And we'll move on now to the report of the superintendent, please.
Good evening. Quick report tonight. The graduation ceremony from the high school, for the high school, was a really spectacular event. We once again were blessed with good weather, and the program went very nicely, and a nice close to the school year. And congratulations to Mr. Morano and Mr. Frazier, who coordinates the graduation, and also especially to the students and their families on the graduation. The 8th grade ceremony at Union School was also a very nice ceremony, and Mr. Schweitzer and his team put together a good program for that evening. So we congratulate all of the graduates, and school closed for the students on Friday. After Friday was the last day, and we are now in summer recess. And in our summer program, next week we'll begin band, Jumpstart, ESY, and the therapeutic program that's new this year. And then the STEAM begins the following week of July 9th. Okay? Mr. Kelly asked if he could have a few moments of my time to read a statement that he's required to read every year regarding requisitions and purchase orders and contracts.
Thank you. Legislation passed into law, Public Law 2015, Chapter 47, approved May 7, 2015, requires that by July 1st of each school year, the school business administrator submit a written report to the Board of Education on school district contracts. The report shall include a list of all district contracts that will be awarded, subject to renewal, or expire during the school year, and an explanation of all applicable federal and state laws, rules, and regulations relating to these contracts. On June 15, 2018, I emailed to each of you, board members, an electronic listing of all 2017 and 18 purchase orders representing all contractual agreements entered into by the board for the fiscal year. A hard copy is available in my office for public review. These contracts are, have been, and will continue to be in full compliance with all state and federal statutes and regulations, in particular New Jersey Title 18A:18, NJAC Chapter 23, and Federal Uniform Administrative Requirements 2 CFR Part 200. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then that's it for my report tonight. I'll be commenting on some of the items on the agenda as we go through.
So we'll move to the report of the president, which likewise will be short. We have a big agenda to move through, and I believe we have some members of the public that would like to make comments, so we'll try to make room for that. I would like to thank a number of you, Mrs. Jones, for speaking at the senior breakfast. How many scholarships were awarded?
$115,000 in scholarships.
$115,000 in scholarships.
That's just from the community. That's not college scholarships. That's
from the
from the Rutherford
various
community.
organizations around Rutherford.
right,
Yeah,
which is very impressive.
that's fantastic. And to Mrs. Ahmed for speaking at the staff appreciation dinner, and I'm sure that they were appreciative of that as you were appreciating them. And to Mr. Mazzone for speaking at the Union School graduation. And I know many of you attended year-end activities. I think this is, we're in a volunteer role, but certainly attending activities such as we see at the end of the year is one of the most rewarding, I think, activities that we're able to do. And so thank you for taking time out of your schedules to do that and representing the board in these activities. Mrs. Ahmed, Mrs. Jones, Mr. Mazzone, and I were able to attend the high school graduation, and as Mr. Hurley said, Mr. Morano, Mr. Frazier, and a cast of others arranged a spectacular ceremony, and somehow they managed once again to arrange great weather. So it was a deserving group of students received a very nice evening, including our not with us this evening student representative, Mr. Sullivan, was there. So we have a large agenda tonight. I'm going to suggest, normally what we do is we would, after the reports of the superintendent and president, we would open the floor for comment to anything on the agenda. I'm going to ask that we have one special presentation in front of that for an agenda item, and I would ask Dr. Racine, who's the chairperson of the Long Range Strategic Planning and Communications Committee, to make a report regarding the last meeting and information that we received since. Thank you.
So the committee met on Monday, June 11th. The short meeting, about over 4 hours, from 7 to...
Can
anybody hear us?
Can folks hear?
Is this on?
It's hard to hear you.
Looks like the volume's down a little bit.
Now? Hello?
Turn the volume
Yeah.
up a little bit.
I'm all right.
It's always hard to hear, too.
Please got turned up.
Just give it.
So we met on Monday, June 11th, from 7 to 11, actually after 11 o'clock. And the agenda, I think, was in your packets. I'll briefly summarize some of this. So first we had a presentation from a kitchen designer, Mr. Brett Farrell, the president of Raymond and Raymond Associates. They've been in business since 1936. We good? Okay. How about now? They still good? All right, good. It's more comfortable than... All right, very good. So they're a food service industry design firm. So they would design kitchens and help you plan operations. And one thing that stuck out right away is Mr. Farrell said that we are unique, we're a rarity, and that just about any district our size in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania area, right, has a kitchen, and the model works just fine, and that he really hasn't seen any district our size with no kitchen. This is unusual. And so, and he said that according to, financially, a kitchen is usually a net zero or better operation. So there's gives and takes here and there, but overall, a kitchen doesn't cost the district money year by year in the budget, right? In the zero cost language, and different kinds of concessions can be written into contracts. Like, for example, usually in the contract it's written that the vendor will bring some of their own equipment or pay for the equipment prep table, etc. Right? Right now that's in our budget, but it has to be. And one thing to note was our kitchen cafeteria was fully funded by the state, fully funded at the amount that they can give, right? Which means that the state sees this kitchen and the cafeteria combo as a necessary part of the school. They don't see it as extraneous, and they will fund it. And we were told it's very unusual for a state to fund a kitchen building, right? Because most places have kitchens, and they just refurbish it. But if we don't have one, the state saw it as a necessary part of the school. Also, he said it's possible. The kitchen space, cafeteria space are the most configurable part of our plan, right? The kitchen space right now, the majority of the square footage is due to food storage. Remember, this is storing food, not just for the high school, the whole district, 2,600 kids plus, right? And this is configurable. Right? We can take away some of the kitchen space, some of the storage space, make it into cafeteria space. You know, there's even ways to plant a kind of mezzanine area. Right? So this is the most configurable part of the plan, and this is done at the detailed design phase, not really done now. But there is room to move that around. Okay? And now, besides that, right, we asked about, so we grilled the architect who was there with us, Mr. Kellen. We grilled him for a while. And so our question was, can a cafeteria be added on? Turns out that due to the way you could design this, of course it's possible at great cost, but it's not really feasible to build this. Huh?
Can the kitchen be?
The kitchen be added. Sorry,
Yeah.
the kitchen be added later on. It's not really feasible to build in such a way the kitchen can be an add-on later without great expense, right? So, and turns out building out into the parking lot, right? To dive in, there's a great amount of discovery risk. Okay, so we looked at alternate plans. And the bottom line is all these alternate plans are considered unnecessary use of space by the state. We get zero state aid, besides the amount of discovery risk, right, which goes into building on a parking lot over here. Okay? So I'm going to detail about that later. Financially, right, our financial counsel told us that it is questionable whether we can bond for non-school use, and if we were to, in a way, right, it would be highly costly to us at a much higher rate. Besides that, we would most probably move from a general obligation bond, which is backed by the taxpayers, to a revenue bond, which would be backed by revenue. And we have no revenue. We make that a very undesirable bond. So, okay, to show this, that's a very, very, that's something which you want to stay away from. Okay? Just note again that any plan that adds new construction at the high school is deemed by the state to be unnecessary and will be fully funded by the taxpayers. So the taxpayer hit for anything we build out there will be 100% taxpayer funded, as opposed to the state giving us money to build, say, a new footprint for the kitchen. So that's what we learned, and because of all those facts, we decided to put forth the full proposal that we've been discussing on the agenda for tonight. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Racine. And that, just a reminder that proposal is one of the motions under the Building and Grounds, and Mr. Mazzone will be presenting that when we get to that. So I would like to, at this time, 7:48, open the floor to any member of the public who wishes to make comment on agenda items only at this time, please. And we ask that comments be limited to 3 minutes. If you can try to keep within 3 minutes, that would be greatly appreciated. And we ask for name, address, and with your comments. Thank you.
I think you know, Kevin Duggan, 469 Stuyvesant Avenue. I think you know me pretty well by now. Thank you for all you do week after week to help ensure that our schools are well run. We've learned the ethics and we understand a lot more than we did several months ago about how this process works. When I first became aware of the plan to fill in and demolish the pool, I sent lots of emails asking for information and wanted clarification. I wanted to understand how you arrived at this pretty momentous decision. To me, it was quite shocking at the time. And when I started coming to the board meetings, I found a lot of like-minded people who shared the same views that I did and were equally surprised and shocked. So we started researching together. We discovered a lot of information. We found out a lot of new information, and you provided quite a lot of information to us, so thank you for that. We learned all the details. We studied the details, probably more than most people, maybe better than some of you. We formed the Rutherford Citizens to Save Our Pool Advocacy Group because we wanted to inform all the citizens in Rutherford. We made sure everybody had all the information that they needed. We also started an online a petition to collect signatures. So far we've collected over 550 signatures. Mike had previously handed in the paper ones that we collected. I have a copy of the online ones that we collected today, and I'll leave that with you before I leave. All the feedback and gratitude that we've received from other people in the community has been truly overwhelming, because there's a lot of people. Not everybody wants to come forward. Not everybody wants to put their name out here and say, save the pool, but they do believe it should be saved. And I think you may be underestimating the groundswell of support within the community for saving the pool. As we started going through it a bit more and we talked to more people, a lot of people who don't know about this referendum yet, everybody we talked to are all in favour of saving the pool. Vast majority are in favour of saving the pool. But what I'd like to do is just run through some of the highlights of the comments that people have provided. So as people signed the petition, we asked them to identify why it was so important for them to save the pool. So saving the pool is important for the high school swim team so that they can continue to have prime time pool use. So that they do not have to get up at 4 a.m. to practice, or practice at 9 p.m. at night. So that they can practice immediately after school and do not have to be bused somewhere else. So that they do not lose study time traveling for practice. So that the swim team can continue to exist and use their own pool. So that the more casual swimmer, and not just the dedicated swimmers who will swim anyway, but so that the casual swimmer will still be able to join the swim team and have an opportunity to do that. So kids can walk or bike to the pool on their own and not have to be driven to some faraway pool. For healthy living and to provide a choice for recreation activities. For those kids who are not able to play any other sport but are able to swim. Because swimming is a 12-month all year round activity. Because swimming is a life skill that everyone should have the opportunity to learn. Because this pool is owned by the Rutherford community. Because the Mayor and Council stipulated that it be shared with the community. Because the YMCA made a $1.2 million investment offer. Because that investment offer allows the Rutherford taxpayer to keep the community pool, reaping all of the benefits and none of the costs. Because with two pools, the YMCA...
We're about another 30 seconds, okay?
Almost done. Because with two pools, the YMCA can offer many new year-round community programs like the recently announced Rutherford Swim Club. Because there are too few swimming pools in the area with huge demand. Because filling in a multi-million-dollar swimming pool facility with dirt is not fiscally responsible. Because senior citizens who swim should get something in return for their tax dollars. Because there are viable alternative options. Because it's not necessary to destroy the pool for classrooms or science labs, or even for a kitchen and a cafeteria. There are other options. Because the referendum will likely be defeated if the pool and destruction of the pool is included in the referendum. That is the most likely outcome. Because it enhances our community and it is the right thing to do. That's just a small sample. I could go on, but I know my time is up. So please listen to the feedback. You still have time to change your vote, change the plan, and reconsider your vote and save the pool for the current generation and for all future generations. I'll leave a copy of the referendum with you. Thank you.
Just one point before you. Mr. Gemelli, I assume, had the petition that I never received a copy, nor did Mr. Kelly.
Okay.
So I'm not sure where he gave it into, but we never got it.
Maybe it was the Borough Hall. I'll get a copy
Okay,
of it.
okay,
Yep.
thank you.
You can just come on up.
Yeah, you can just come to the microphone and just start with your name and address, please.
My name is Claudia Soraya. I live at 120 Irving Place. I'm a swimmer mother, someone's mother. So my daughter learned how to swim in the Rutherford pool, in the Rutherford High School pool, and she's looking forward to joining the swim team in the fall. Now I want to ask you, if this was the football team, the high school football team, would anyone even consider moving the training of the football team into another town, in East Rutherford or in Lyndhurst, just to train? That would be outrageous. Well, it's that level of outrage that happens with a swim team. It's exactly what we're asking for the swim team to do. So, instead of cherishing our athletes and encourage them to perform, this is a champion team. It's not just some put together team at the corner of the street. It's a champion team who brings prestige to the town. And we're asking them, we're just taking away the pool from them? That's just outrageous to consider. And you would not consider that if it was another sport, like a land sport, a baseball team or a football team or any other team. Secondly, about the STEM program. Somehow we are put in this choosing position that we have to either have the STEM program or the pool, which I think is an absurd proposition. We could definitely have both. Nobody is stopping us from having both. We could have a STEM program that's performing and lovely and great, and keep the pool. And there are options to do that. Just think about the robotics team that got all the awards and was here last month, right? They are using current facilities, and they didn't ask for extra taxpayer dollars for their performance. So we could maybe take a little hint from them and try to apply those notes and develop a STEM program that doesn't need that much money. And for sure it doesn't need a kitchen, and it doesn't need AstroTurf to the point of $2.5 million or whatever else I read. So we could definitely do both, and I'm asking you to consider doing both, which is the smart thing to do. And thirdly, I want someone to explain me and everyone else here. Maybe this was raised up before, but I only came across this issue about a month ago. So could someone please explain, why is this issue not on the ballot in November, when we could save money if we don't have to have a separate referendum? And it just sounds to me like a no-brainer to have it on the ballot in November. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And to the last speaker at the, excuse me, could you just repeat your name? We didn't catch your name.
Me?
Yes.
Claudia Soraya. Last name Soraya.
S-
S-E-R-E-A.
Thank you.
Good evening. Patricia Boylan, 121 Vreeland Avenue. I was actually one of the community members on the Strategic Planning Committee, and we met for 2 years. I attended nearly every one of the meetings. The mandate of the group was to identify the needs of the Rutherford schools, To accomplish this goal, we met with many employed by the Rutherford school system, including all of the principals, the athletic director, Mr. Kelly, superintendent, and many other folks that work for the school district. We also met with many in the community, the mayor, the police chief, realtors, just to name a few. After conducting all of this due diligence and research and studying it, we prioritized what we saw as the needs of the Rutherford School District. And then we presented these needs to the Board of Ed. One of the items that we never discussed in the strategic planning group was the pool. I want to say that I'm a huge advocate of the Rutherford High School swimming team. My girls, one who's a senior, one who's a sophomore, both swim on the Rutherford swim team. I have 2 nephews and a niece who swam on the swim team, and I have an 8th grader who I really hope will, and feel very confident will swim on the Rutherford High School swim team. It's a terrific sport, and I agree with everything the speakers before have said and other speakers have said. It's one that where an individual can do well, but it's also a team sport. The Rutherford swim team that I've known has been a fantastic group of kids, great coaches, great support from the school. And it is one that the kids can continue to participate in throughout their life. I would truly be devastated if I thought Rutherford would not have a swim team. But I have to tell you, the heart and soul of this Rutherford High School swim team is not the pool. It's the swimmers and the coaches. The current facility is old, and for both swimmers and spectators, it's not a great venue for a meet. The pool is presently used for the swim team a little more than 2 months a year. The remainder of the time, it's primarily used by the Y. Now the Y has a state-of-the-art facility. It's unfortunate that after years of us hosting their swim program, we're not getting easy access to the Y. And I acknowledge it will be difficult and a little bit of an inconvenience to have to drive my children to another pool, but no more inconvenient than when I had to drive my daughter down to the soccer field or my son down to the baseball fields. The reality is that Rutherford High School and Rutherford schools need more labs, more classrooms that will be used for 10 months a year by the majority of the student body. I truly feel we need to prioritize what's needed by the district. I wish we could keep the pool. In my opinion, though, we need to utilize the limited space we have so that the most amount of students benefit. Rutherford truly has a great school system, and that's a tribute to all of you. But let's make this an exceptional school district where the children can really compete academically with other towns in Bergen County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Liz Forte, 111 Woodward Avenue. I'm not going to get into the specifics of anything. As a parent who had 3 children graduate and do very well, one with a few more years to go, I would like to thank the Board of Education and Mr. Hurley for their due diligence in continuing to ensure the students of Rutherford have the opportunities of 21st century leaders. We all grew up with certain things, then our children had other things. I really would like my grandchildren to have better things. So thank you very much for doing the things that you do.
Thank you.
Good evening, Adam Zora, 94 Vreeland Avenue. As you all may recall, I enumerated my concerns about the facilities plan at the last meeting, including the breach of your 40-year social contract with the borough, its children, and the 80% funding for the brick and mortar that has nothing to do with improving educational outcomes. Those dismal outcomes, appearing on the school website as recently as last Saturday, show that college readiness is at a low of 39%, reading proficiency at 64%, and math proficiency at 42%. That's hardly a blue ribbon achievement. Improving these data should command a higher priority than demolishing existing structures, building a luxury lounge for high school teachers, and a new cafeteria that would actually seat less than half of the current high school population. Spending $53 million to accommodate 92 fictional future enrollees is not well worth it. The current plan is neither cost-effective, academically responsible, nor the product of due diligent outcome analysis. A more reasonable approach would be to include emphasis on improving student outcomes and proposing a $15 million plan to upgrade the Kinder Center and address overdue building maintenance issues during a general election cycle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Margaret Mellett. I live at 114 Mortimer Avenue. Tonight you will be assuming responsibility for a momentous decision that will impact not only Rutherford Public School students, but also the entire Rutherford community. According to tonight's published agenda, you will be asked to authorize a ballot question seeking the community's support for $53 million of school improvements. Specific to Rutherford High School, the explanatory statement includes the language, conversion of pool space. This language implies that the pool itself no longer exists. I find this to be inaccurate and misleading. The pool space cannot be converted until the pool is demolished, and yet there is no explicit mention of the demolition of the pool. An explanatory statement on a ballot is intended to provide clarity, not to obfuscate, and the voters of Rutherford deserve transparency. Conversion and repurposing are nice words that obscure what is really happening. You are seeking to demolish the pool built with federal funds that your predecessors agreed to make available to Rutherford residents when school is not in session, making it truly the community pool that was envisioned by those who drafted the federal grant application in the first place. Communication is an issue that was raised by parents who completed your online survey last year. 2 superintendent roundtables were scheduled for September and April to provide more information about the facilities plans under review. However, as a parent with 2 children in the public schools, I received no notification from the school district about either of these presentations. By contrast, I received 4 emails about Chromebook insurance. I also find it curious that the second roundtable was scheduled for the same date and time as PopCert, an annual tradition at Rutherford High School for the past 34 years, which surely presented a conflict for parents of Rutherford High School students and faculty. The pool is a treasured community asset, as dozens have attested at Board of Ed meetings for the past 5 months, and hundreds have indicated on the Save Our Pool petition. The Meadowlands YMCA has expressed its desire to enter into negotiations and its willingness to assume both the operating and capital expenses related to the pool to the tune of $1 million. As a taxpayer, I was shocked and embarrassed that their generous offer was rejected outright. The pool is being sacrificed for a $2.69 million kitchen, the need for which was never indicated on the survey which formed the basis for the facilities plan. The residents can vote the referendum up or down, but only you as board members can decide what is and is not included in the referendum. You can also decide what is and is not included in the school's curriculum. I'm asking you to spare the pool and to take advantage of the offer made by the YMCA to provide free swim lessons for every second grade Rutherford child. Put swimming back in the physical education curriculum. There's nothing more important that a child can learn than a skill that could save his or her life. Thank you.
My name is Declan Mellett. I live at 114 Mortimer Avenue, and I'm going into the 8th grade at Union School. About a week ago in science class, for our end-of-year activity, we had to dissect worms and label their organs. It smelled terrible, and it was difficult to breathe, making an activity that would normally be interesting and fun very unpleasant. This was largely due to my science classroom not having windows. I think that it's great that you want to build new science classrooms, and I very much agree with the fact that we need updated STEM labs. According to your proposed plan, 3 out of 4 of the new labs in the high school and all of the new labs in Union School will be in windowless rooms. Given my experience, I think that it is important for science students to have access to fresh air, especially since they may be working with chemicals or dissecting animals. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Hi, Natalie Gagliardo, 363 Sylvan Street. I've been doing a lot of thinking about this whole situation. I've gone out of state a few times since the last meeting, and I've mentioned this situation to others that I was visiting. It's always nice to get the view of others and find out what's going on in other towns. And the topic of school came up during a dinner I was having with some friends, and I mentioned this referendum to them. The fact that we don't have an auditorium in one of our elementary schools, Pierpont, that will fit the 3 grades, how the classrooms are quite crowded, as well as the portables that have been used for the past 30 plus years, and the lack of AC and how the kids have to eat in a hot, crowded room. We talked about the classroom situation at the high school, the labs, the broken windows, and how the kids are sitting on the floor in the hallway to eat lunch because we have no area to fit them all. And kids walk around these hallways in shoes that have been all over, public bathrooms. The children are eating lunch on the floor. It's not only dirty, but it's also not good for the cleanliness of the school with crumbs and splatters all over the place. And as well as how they are able to leave campus or go wherever they want during lunch, which all but one person had heard of. The rest of them were surprised by this and felt it was concerning and unsafe. And I know this is, seems to be a common occurrence around here, but I have lived all over the country, and I went to 5 high schools. Every single one of them had a structured lunch where we ate in the cafeteria, we went out for recess, and then we went back in when the bell rang. And all of this embarrassed me, honestly. When it was coming out of my mouth during the dinner, I wish I had not brought it up, because these conditions gave the impression that we live in a rundown town, and none of these people have been to Rutherford. So this is the image that they have now of where I live and where I'm choosing to raise my children. We live in a great town, and other than this, I am proud to call it my home. We are much better than this. And as far as the pool goes, I honestly don't know a single person that enjoys that pool or the facility. My husband swam in the pool for the swim team, and it hasn't changed since then, and he didn't even like it then. My daughter she was on the swim team a couple of years ago for the Y. She stopped because she doesn't like the pool. She wants to join the swim team again, but she's praying that she's not going to have to swim in this pool again. She really wants to join the swim team. We are members of the Y, and I've spoken to someone in the aquatics department about what would you guys do if we filled in the pool? And she said, well, we'd have no choice but to bring it all over here to the new facility, which is exactly what they'll do. They'll just bring their swim team over there. Now, they're not going to come here and say it, because I know that they've said we can't support our fall swim team, but that's what they'll do. People are going around getting signatures of town residents. Who know who these signatures are from necessarily? Are they people that have kids in the school system? Are they retirees that have no skin in the game but just sign it because they want to get somebody off of their porch? I sincerely hope that when it comes time to vote, you can consider everything in this that will benefit our entire town, not the other towns that might use our pool on occasion, and the education of the future generations as a whole, not just the ones that swim. The pool does not provide a benefit like the other items in this referendum. That was it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Excuse my appearance. I had to run from down the shore because I felt that's a very important meeting for me to attend. I'm a very proud resident of Rutherford. I'm very proud where I live. I can assure the person who spoke before me, I'm one of the people who collects signatures We all taxpayers, we all live in this town, and we all love this town. Just for your information, you mentioned something about the portables. The portables are staying. We are spending $53 million, and we're going to send our kids to portables. I would like to speak to the people who hear me. This pool was built as a community pool. It was paid for by your tax money, by your parents' tax money, or your grandparent tax money. No one had authorized this board to get rid of our asset. As Mr. Kelly, thank you so much. I've been communicating with you, and you've been very generous giving me information. One of the reasons we're given here about not building a new building is the tax impact on the taxpayer. I've done the calculations, and based on the numbers you provided, based on the state aid, the difference between building a new building and using the current construction is, and listen to this, you can challenge me in the math, it's $2.20 per household per $1 million spent. I repeat it, it's $2.20 per household per $1 million spent. I found it, and excuse me for lack of better word, to be laughable to use that as an excuse to save taxpayer money while we asking them to spend about $500 extra each year for the next 25 years. I ask you, please, consider all these points before you vote today to get rid of the asset that our community has. I speak to people in town. I speak to teachers who live in town. Guess what? Most of them assure me they're not satisfied with this plan. Mr. Hurley, your sport director had spoken here, and he made the joke. I understand it was a joke when he said, if he says something wrong, you would throw him with something. No one is going to come here and oppose their boss publicly. I can assure you, teachers who work for the Board of Education who live in this town, most of the ones I speak to are against. Most of the coaches I speak to are against. They're not going to come here and oppose it. I understand that most of the people who work for the Board of Education who came and spoke here don't live in town. I ask you, please, you board member, you live in town. This is an asset that was paid for by us. I live in this town only for 20 years, but I know people who their grandparents paid for this asset and don't want it to go away. Please, let's leave our differences aside. Please do not vote to fill in a pool with dirt, to convert it into a cafeteria. I've challenged this board on the math. Please, feel free to challenge me. And I'm using the word challenge me on math. I've been saying it for 5 months. 5 months ago, I came here with open mind, but unfortunately, that was not two-way. This new cafeteria will only fit 365 students. That's 75 students more than what we have now. If we think that having 75 more students sitting in the cafeteria will prevent them from sitting on the floor, we're doing something wrong. Last point, the community was cited here many times. I'm a soccer coach. We're spending $2.5 million on this field. No one had told us how much will it take to maintain that field, how much we're spending on that field to mostly support soccer and lacrosse. Please consider not to get rid of one valuable asset we have here. Thank you so much.
Hi, good evening. Brian Ursulisi, 265 Santiago Ave, Rutherford. I'm not going to speak in generalities about nameless people, nameless teachers. I'll use my own name. You are my boss. I work for all of you in a way. Mr. Hurley would know that I've disagreed with him quite a few times on many things, publicly and not publicly. However, in this case, I happen to agree. So I'm going to speak to you as a dad, not as a teacher in the district or supervisor in the district, and not even necessarily as a taxpayer, although that's part of it. As a dad of a kid who's in 5th grade and one who's going into 5th grade and going into 3rd grade, I'm thrilled that you have done your due diligence, that you have looked at all of the options for growing our kids academically. All too often, as somebody who lived his life in the arts, sports seem to always overshadow things, and I think this is one of those times where academics is truly standing at the top of what you are trying to do and what I hope the town eventually will be able to vote on. A STEM program that will benefit my 2 kids, a lunchroom where they will be able to sit and not sit on the floors once they get up into the high school. I know we've talked about whether or not the cafeteria can hold people, and you have to forgive me, I'm the English supervisor, I'm not the math guy. But there are ways to structure school schedules where you can have 2 lunch periods. That way, okay. I didn't realize it was open comment time.
Excuse me. Please allow someone to speak.
If you would like to get up and speak after me, please do. So I want you to just be aware that the teachers that have supposedly been spoken to, nobody spoke to me. So I'm here to say, as a teacher, that I hope you do vote for this referendum, and I want you to know that you have my support, my family's support, and many other nameless teachers who I am friends with, who I've spoken to. So thank you.
Thank you. I would like to remind everyone, please, that we're to be courteous and listen to each other. The point of this is for the public to make their thoughts known to the Board of Education. And if you can direct points to the Board of Education, that's appreciated. If you're not speaking, if you could allow the speaker to finish their speaking, that would be appreciated. I've been lenient with the 3 minutes. I think most of you realize, people have gone over either way, and we're trying to fit everybody in. Okay? Thank you. Please.
Thank you. My name is Declan Mellett. I live at 114 Mortimer Avenue. Mr. Hurley and members of the board, I've been here a few months too. We've been back and forth. We've heard all the discussions. And I believe we need to tap the brakes on this referendum and reevaluate. Over the past 5 months, we have heard the goals of the facilities plans, our classrooms and STEM labs. In reality, however, 20 million of the proposed referendum will go towards gymnasiums, a kitchen, a turf field, and a cafeteria. None of these will help make Rutherford a more competitive district. The STEM labs and added classrooms at the high school will get the leftovers, as do the science labs at Union School. It seems to me if you want Rutherford to become a competitive in science, you should start by studying the schools that our students are leaving Rutherford to attend, such as Bergen Academies and Bergen Tech. Not give our students a windowless, converted cafeteria or gym and call it a state-of-the-art STEM lab. They deserve better than that. And for 53 million, so do the hard-working taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Maureen Mellett, and I live at 114 Mortimer Avenue. I'm going into 6th grade at Pierpont School this September, and I'm concerned that the plans for Pierpont call for the elimination of most of the outdoor recess space for students. I know and understand that there needs to be more classroom space at Pierpont. I personally was in a classroom this year that at one point had 27 kids and 2 teachers. It was crowded and hard to learn. I was lucky to have a teacher the past year who took us outside when we had extra time and played creative games with us that encouraged problem solving and teamwork. When my classmates and I returned to class, we were much more focused and ready to learn. I would hope that future students would have the same opportunity. Thank you for your time as you weigh your decision regarding the facilities plans.
Thank you.
My name is Sandra Larson. I live at 152 Hackett Place. I've lived in the town for about 42 years. I remember when the pool was built, and I also was under the impression that it was a community pool. They were thinking of building it down at Memorial Field, but that didn't work out, and so it was put up here. So I was really very, very surprised when I heard that it might be demolished for a cafeteria. It just seemed to me to be such a waste of a useful facility to get rid of it. We'll never get another one in this town. I'm sure the knowing how much it would be and the space it would take, we'll never have another school pool or another community pool if we get rid of this. So I just want you to keep that in mind as you make your decision. I had 3 children go through the public school. They all used the pool. It was part of phys ed back then. They had to do 1 semester of phys ed, either freshman year or sophomore year, where they went to the pool and they got swimming lessons. At that age, I don't know if the children really enjoyed it, because they had to hurry and get ready, and the girls had to get their hair wet and everything, but they learned how to swim, and as someone said, that is a good skill to know. They also came to the school in 4th grade. They were bussed up for 1 semester during their phys ed period, and they all had swimming lessons, all of the 4th graders in the town. And now I hear that the Y is willing to give every 2nd grader swimming lessons. I think we need to take advantage of this and see the pool more as an asset than as something that's in the way of a cafeteria. I have no doubt that we need the upgrades that you're talking about. I don't know exactly what you're planning on doing, and I think we probably need it. If you say that we need it, you've done your work, and you know that we do need it, and I'm sure we do. I went to a school in Jersey City growing up, a high school with 3,500 students. We had 1 cafeteria. It was probably about double this size. We had 3 lunch periods. 4th, 5th, and 6th periods were lunch periods. It was about every period was 45 minutes. Students ate in the cafeteria, or they went a block or 2 to eat in a luncheonette, pizza place, whatever they wanted to. They weren't closed in, because these kids are not babies anymore. They really do have the right to get out a little bit and talk to their friends and maybe go someplace for lunch. I don't think that's a terrible problem. My children did it a little bit. Sometimes they ate in the cafeteria. Sometimes they went to the local pizza place and met with their friends. I don't see that as a problem. Growing up, I didn't see that as a problem. I don't think we need to have so many rules. But mainly what I want to get across is that this pool is a good facility. Maybe it needs some upgrading, maybe it needs some improvements, I'm not sure, but I don't think that we should just get rid of it in order to build a cafeteria. I have 4 grandchildren coming up, and they hope it's here. I have 2 of them that are very interested in take swimming lessons, and I just hope it's here when they get to high school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you mind if I raise this?
Yeah.
I'm William Frampton. I live at 65 Chestnut Street. This is the first time I've spoken here. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. I think all of us in the room agree that the schools should be excellent. I think I think all of us can agree on that, and that should bring us together. I think that it's great that a plan is being developed, but when I moved to this town in September, I decided to move here because of what I saw as several treasures in the town. One was the train station, one was the downtown area, and I was so happy and surprised that there was a pool. It took me a while to find out that there was a pool. I think it's underutilized. I agree I agree that it's underutilized, maybe even underutilized by the swim team. I don't know about that. I don't think the public awareness is high enough of the swimming pool. If you just search swimming pool on Google Maps, it does come up, but it's really hard to figure out that it's actually there. So I think that it should be utilized more. I think the community should be able to spend time in it. I think seniors benefit from this already a lot, but I think for seniors, swimming is a really important activity. I think it's important to involve the town council and the mayor in this decision. I don't know if this has been talked about a lot, but I'm surprised personally that this isn't a town issue, that it's a Board of Education issue, the swimming pool. And I would, the 2 things that I would ask about that is that it just becomes a town issue that the council, that the mayor, that the people of the town all understand that it's happening. And second, I do agree with the clarification of the language, that it shouldn't be conversion of swimming pool to so-and-so, but the swimming pool will be filled in or destroyed. Maybe destroyed is too strong of a word. I don't know. But so I would ask you to consider those points. Thank you so much for trying to improve the schools. I hope to have children come through the school district, and I want them to be excellent schools. So I hope we can just work and figure out a way to make both of these goals. Obviously, there are a lot of people who love the swimming pool. I swam there this week, by the way, and it's wonderful. I love swimming in the pool. And I would love to continue to do that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Aaron Kleinbaum at 62 West Pierpont Avenue, and I'd like to thank Mr. Hurley and the board for your close attention to this $53 million issue. I appreciate the discussion that I've heard of the few times I've been here. I also would like to thank the visionaries at the Town Council and the Board of Education in the 70s who had the foresight to capture federal money that was available to build the pool, and then transfer that money to the Board of Education for the community pool that we have today. I'm a lifelong resident of Rutherford, 3 children who were in the school system, one who was on the swim team. I mentioned this in the past. All 3 went through the phys ed program that was mentioned earlier. I'd like to thank the prior speaker for giving a shout out to senior citizens, because that's what I find myself to be right now, and I enjoy swimming. It's a good exercise for community members, senior citizens who can't do impact sports anymore. I also want to mention that I think the explanatory statement is not accurate. It fails to account for the loss of a valuable asset that I don't think is included in your financial consideration of the cost of this project. Also, the district election that is being scheduled is guaranteed to provide a low turnout of the public. I think that's very unfair, in addition to the additional costs to conduct that election. If you vote on this agenda item, if you vote positively for it, and there is an election in October, and it does not include the pool, I will vote against. I will vote against it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any additional? No? So, well, you've made a comment already, so just 1 second, please, if we have someone else who's trying to make a comment.
Jim Bonanno, 176 Carmita Avenue. I just want to start off and say to Mr. Hurley, I have great confidence in you as a leader. I don't know you very well personally, but I know many of the leaders that you have surrounded yourself by, and they're very, very good people. And good leaders surround themselves by good people. And I don't know everyone on this Board of Education personally. I know some of you, and I've reached out and told them, even though we have a difference of opinion, my respect is still there. So I don't know everybody, but I see you in church and parades and things along those lines. So I want to continue to thank you for what you do. I'm proud to live in a country where we can voice differences of opinions and do it in a respectful way. What I'm going to ask tonight is to consider having this vote on Election Day. I think that we all know that on Election Day, more people come out and vote. And ultimately, the community decides this. And that's our democratic process. I want to share a story from one of my students a long time ago, or not that long ago. He joined the Marines, and he fought in Iraq. And he came back from Iraq, and we had a barbecue. And I shared my concerns about the way the war was going. And the reason why I did that, because my nephew was there. And I supported him, and of course, my nephew. And my student said, don't worry about what's going to go on over there. We'll know if we're going to win or not by how many people come out and vote. That's the key. When we get large numbers of people, Iraqi citizens, to come out and vote, we'll know we did a good job. And unfortunately for my student, he didn't make it back. But I'm comforted in the fact that he knew how important it was for this nation for people to come out and vote. So, you know how I feel about the pool. That's another issue, which is an important issue. But my thing that I would like to encourage you is to please put this where the most voters in Rutherford could come out and vote on this, which would, of course, be Election Day. And then we could all live with those results. I appreciate everything you're doing, and please consider that.
Thank you. So in general, what we do is each person's allowed one comment, and we would go to the end of the meeting if you had a second comment. Will it be brief?
Yeah, just a question.
Okay, yes, please.
I think one of the speakers here was actually a member of that steering committee, strategic committee, whatever the title was, and it wasn't identified that way, if that's true. So I think it should be on the record that you had somebody from the strategic planning committee recommending that people vote for this particular issue. Thank you.
I think she introduced that as she spoke. She said she was on the committee.
I did. No, not you. Is it Mr. Ers? I can't pronounce. Yeah. Is it? Aren't you on the? Weren't you on the committee?
It was not on the committee.
Your name was on the sheet, right?
I was on the committee 2 years ago.
Oh well, his name still appears. Your name still appears on that sheet apparently. Okay. So okay, so if you're not on, I withdraw my question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lena Merrill, 95 West Passaic Avenue. I am here obviously to plead for the pool. I have a child who is a coder, who is in robotics, who just came home with an A+ in robotics, and I'm so proud of her, and I want those STEM labs for her. I want the classrooms, I want all the space that you guys need, and you actually came up with a plan that worked. And all you have to do is work out the money. And it seems odd to me, like we just opened this gorgeous playground and we spent way more money on that playground than we had to include everybody, to include all the kids. And the fact that you need to spend more time and do better. I know you guys have spent years on this, and it means a lot that I've talked to some of you, I know I've sent you emails. It matters so much that you get this right. And if it takes a little longer, take a little longer. And just throwing the Y out the door when they're offering $1 million, like you're denying the second graders free swim lessons, it's kind of galling. And I know you think you're doing your best, and I know you think you're doing your best, but I swear you can do better. I know you can do better. So please, just spend a little more time and figure it out for us, okay? Thank you.
Thank you for all the comments. At 8:37, we will close the floor for public comment. I don't know if there's any specific points that any member of the board wants to discuss now, or we wait until we get to the referendum topic? Okay, so we'll move into the body of the agenda then, please. And I would ask Mrs. Ahmed to take us through personnel, please.
We have 25 motions tonight. Your approval to accept. You're asked to approve the following personnel motions. 1, RSA contract. 2, Hello? It's not on. You have it? Is that better? No? Turn this way now. Okay, so we have RSA contract as the first one. Second is salary approvals. The third, salary approvals administrators. The fourth, salary approvals for supervisors. The sixth, custodial maintenance to be resolved for their salaries. Number 7, the hourly employee rates for the employees, positions for hourly rates employees. That includes teacher assistants, lunch monitors, home instructors, substitute teachers, substitute nurse, substitute teacher assistants, secretaries, bus assistants, monitors. Then we're up to number 8, Margaret DiStefano and Daniel Murray. Our 2 lunch monitor resignations that we have to vote for. Devin Orr is number 10, approved for a STEM teacher. 11, Daniel Green, part-time kindergarten teacher at kindergarten, and that'll be from June 30th through 2019. 12, Robin Zach, as a leave replacement elementary teacher at Pierpont School. 13, Robert Rivas, third shift custodian, Pierpont School, to approve him. Also, 14, 15, and 16 resolutions are all lunch monitors at Lincoln School. That's Marie DeSalvo, Gina Amador Ong, and Shirley Henry. 17, extended school year for Dennis Spellman in aid service during the 2018 extended school year program. 18, extended school year teacher assistants. 19, substitute teachers. 20, substitute teacher assistants. 21, summer band instructor. 22, Erica Pata to provide home tutoring service. 23, travel reimbursements as listed. And 25, Megan Gordon, to approve her as disability leave with pay for Megan Gordon, teacher at Washington School for child rearing.
And I think you just missed 24, which was also travel reimbursements. So before you move those, were there any questions or comments? So she's just introduced what is on the agenda, and we need to move Resolution 1 first by itself.
Okay.
Since that's a contract, which then another resolution, that has to pass before we can go to the other resolution that covers the people in that contract.
Okay.
So if you would formally move number 1, please.
I'd like to move number 1 resolution, RSA contract.
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Rivera. Any questions or comments regarding this resolution? Hearing none, I would ask the secretary to poll the board, please.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Dr. Olati?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Labrera?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, if you would please, you can move as a block 2 through 25.
Yes, I'd like to move resolutions 2 through 25 for your approval.
Seconded by Mr. Healy. Questions or comments? Hearing none, ask the secretary to please poll the board.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Dr. Oladi?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Librera?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to curriculum and instruction, Mrs. Jones, do you have anything to report to the board? And tell
We
us
did not have a meeting, no, so there are just 5 resolutions on tonight's agenda for board member consideration. Resolutions 1 and 2 require affirmation of the superintendent's decision on 2 HIB decisions. Number 3 is out-of-district placements for the district totaling $1,226,020.45. Resolution 4 is approval of the attached list of contracts and for other service providers for out-of-district placement. And number 5 is approval of the field trips. I don't know if anybody would need to add. I don't think there's anything on that that requires more of an explanation. So unless anybody has anything, I move resolutions 1 through 5.
Moved by Mrs. Jones, seconded by Mrs. Ahmed. Questions or official questions or comments? No? Ask the secretary to please poll the board.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Dr. Oladi?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Librera?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to finance. Mrs. Librera, can you update us and tell us what's on the agenda?
Sure. The finance section of the agenda is lengthy tonight. There are 23 motions. Most of them either regular business on a monthly level, like the approval of bills, or things that we are doing annually in terms of approving certain service contracts. There's a number of items that I'd actually like to ask Mr. Kelly to speak to. So would you like me to move everything and then ask him to speak, or do you want me to just...
No, we can have a discussion first, and then when you move it, and when it's seconded, I'll ask for any last questions.
Okay. Sure. Well, the first thing I would like to point out is that number 9 on the agenda for the finance items is to accept with gratitude a donation from Christopher Arcee's participation in the Eagle Scout program. He has donated outdoor tables and benches to the Union School, so I wanted to make sure that we made a mention of that tonight and thanked him for his efforts. And second, I'll just run down the list real quick of the items that it would be helpful for Joe to address tonight. Number 1 is, well, I should say number 7, the authorization for capital reserve. I'll just run through the list real quickly, and then if others maybe want to ask questions too, because I know there were some lengthy resolutions in the packet. Numbers 12 and 13 that have to do with leases. Number 15, the renewal of the pool contract. Number 17, the non-public IDEA grants, and number 21, the IDEA grants. So that was 7, 12, 13, 15, 17, and 21.
Okay, number 7 is the transfer of funds into capital reserve. We do this every June. This is the opportunity we have every year. Any surplus funds from the current year that we're just ending right now, 17-18, we can move funds into capital reserve to be used for future projects. Number is $1 million. That is overstated. Not going to know the exact number until, excuse me, let me restate that. The number is up to $1 million. We're not going to know the exact number until the auditors get done with their work in a few months, so we'll know exactly what our financial situation is for 2017-18. But as we have done the last 5 years or so, I think it's critical that we move money into capital reserve for these projects. And even with the referendum and possibly in front of us, we still need these funds and we still use them. This year we're replacing, 2018-19, we're replacing boilers at the high school. We're working on gutter replacements that are desperately needed over at Union School. And we have a rooftop unit here that needs some work. This is all being done with capital reserve funds. So that's that. I will point out a typo on that one, on number 7, on the last paragraph there. It does say $1.5 million. It should be $1 million, and the minutes will show that. Number 12. Actually, if I may go back to number 11, we budgeted for a number of Chromebooks. These are the student use. The way we've been financing these has been through a lease purchase. So we actually buy the Chromebooks ourselves, then we arrange for the leasing. So we buy the Chromebooks, and that's number 11 that you're being asked to approve. Then we enter into a lease purchase agreement. Right now, we are out to bid on that. But so I don't have any results on that, but you're giving me the authority to pursue that process. And then number 13 is to submit a request for reimbursement under the terms of that lease. So that brings the money back, and then we're subject to annual lease payment terms for 4 years beyond that.
So why do we structure it that way, where we buy them and then lease them
I'm sorry,
and then reimburse the
We're not
lease?
buying them, we are ordering them.
I
So they
see.
come in, and then we get the bill, but then we turn that over to the leasing company, and they pay it, and then we pay them over 4 years.
Okay.
Apologize for that. Number 15 was Community Pool Program. This is a renewal contract for next year. The same terms, although we do have some language in there to, in case the referendum does proceed and is approved in October, and we need to shut the pool for renovation work, the language will reflect that. Number 17, non-public IDEA grant funds. We do receive, as I believe every district in the state receives, IDEA funds as a federal program, the Individual with Disabilities Education Act. Part of those funds are earmarked for the non-public schools in the borough of Rutherford, so that would be St. Mary's High School and the Academy at St. Mary's. We use our share of the funds, which is the lion's share of these funds, for out-of-district tuition costs. St. Mary's obviously doesn't have that, but they use the funds. They engage with Bergen County Special Services School District to provide occupational therapy, physical therapy, whatever they need. So, they have a relationship with them directly to utilize those funds to pay for it. That was number 17, and number 21.
It's just our version
Oh,
of
this
that.
is the entire IDEA grant for next year.
Okay.
The application is due, I think, July 16th, so we need approval before that. I'm sorry, July 16th is the board meeting. It's July 13th. So we do need approval in order to submit it.
So with that, I'll move items 1 through 23 in the finance section.
Before you do that, just to explain to the board members so it doesn't sound mysterious, when I abstain on number 17, I do that because I am a trustee at St. Mary as well, and just to avoid any appearance of conflict of interest. And 21 as well? Yeah, and 21 as well. Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay, so I move items 1 through 23.
Seconded by Mr. Racine, Dr. Racine, excuse me. Any formal questions or comments regarding these motions? No? Ask the secretary to please poll the board.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Dr. Olati?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Librera?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Abstain on 17 and 21, please. Yes on all the others.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to building and grounds.
I believe policy. Do you want to do policy first?
Oh, I guess policy would be good if I didn't skip over that. Yes, let's do policy first. Mr. Healy.
Tonight, we have one resolution that has 13 policies and/or regulations. This is the first reading and for approval. One new and 12 revised, and they're as listed. And also, I believe the detail was distributed in the meeting packet. So I would ask if we need any detailed discussion on any of the policies or regulations presented.
I would just maybe ask our superintendent to comment on the wording comes from our the wording in these policies?
Strauss Esme, who is our policy advisor, that they are a team of lawyers and educational lawyers and former school superintendents and other education background people, and they serve probably about 85% of the districts in New Jersey with policy updates. So the policies are reviewed by them quarterly. Any mandated changes from legislation gets included. Any suggested changes, they'll send us either suggested or mandated changes for us to look at. The two district-initiated changes come from, because we also review policies quarterly, we meaning the administrators, supervisors, so there used to be a prohibition on taking more than 2 courses in summer for credit recovery, because with traditional summer school, it was really impossible. You didn't really need that in policy. It was impossible time-wise to take more. But now with EduSeer and other online service providers of summer school, a student could take more courses than 2. And in terms of moving students along, graduating them, keeping them up to speed, and remediation, the student's willing to do that, it's really an antiquated policy now. The other policy about accepting new courses is not about credit recovery. It's about students who want to go beyond what we offer curriculum-wise in terms of math or science or any subject area, world language. So if they are, say, advanced students in math or science who have taken some high school courses while they're still in 7th and 8th grade, they can now, with the principal and or guidance director's approval, take more challenging courses online, and the credit would be accepted. We had a policy that prohibited accepting any online course for credit, and that again is a little antiquated with the way education is moving. So if there's any questions on any of the policies.
I didn't have a question, more just I appreciate all of the policy revisions, and I guess I wanted to call special attention to appreciating the revised student smoking policy to reflect electronic smoking devices. I think it's really important with all the research out there and the reality in schools.
We have again, not at liberty to discuss student issues publicly, but we had to deal with vaping, as every school district has. Unfortunately, more of, believe it or not, even on the elementary and middle school level than it is on the high school level. And we have enforced the current policy, because you're talking about tobacco, you're talking about items that a person should not have the age these students were. But in the age that we are now in, with specific language that seems to be required everywhere, inserting the vaping electronic cigarettes into the policy is also important. And also inserted in the policy is the is a carryover from the drug and alcohol policy, that if a student appears to be under the influence, even though we can't determine what's in the electronic device, that student by law would have to go to get drug tested. That's a concern. Obviously with vaping, it'll become a larger concern if and when marijuana becomes legalized, because then things that can't be sold right now in electronic cigarettes could be sold. So this policy, one of the good things about Strauss Esme is they don't overreact and immediately come up with policy suggestions. They guide you to utilize policies that you currently have in place and allow things to develop in terms of laws and in terms of trends, so that the recommendations they make are sound. So I think the time is right now to have it actually spelled out.
Thank you.
So Mr. McLean will then, this is first reading, so then July meeting will be the second reading.
Yeah, and I know we have people here in the audience who may not be familiar with policy. Is one item or the item that needs 2 board approvals before it becomes adopted. So that because policy is something that governs every decision I make, every decision the board makes, we can't override policy. So the 2 readings allows for us to, the board, and for me and everyone else to consider, whether or not we got it right.
Thank you. And so there is nothing to move or act on? Oh, no, we still need to, we need to approve them on first reading, yes, I'm sorry, so you need to move them, yes.
Put this motion for tonight, this resolution forward for board approval.
For first reading.
First reading.
On first reading. Seconded by?
Second.
Mr. Muller? No further questions or comments? Ask the secretary to please poll the board.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Dr. Oladi?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Librera?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving into building and grounds, and I think, well, would you like to?
Yeah, I thought
begin
what
a
I would
general
do, sir,
discussion, or-
is I would do items, there are 4 items tonight to be introduced. I thought I would jump to items 2 through 4 first, then come back to item 1 to allow the board for any discussion. So starting with item number 2, the district is seeking to upgrade our video intercom, our door entry systems, replacing antiquated equipment. Therefore, we're seeking to engage open systems integrators to provide district-wide Aerophone video intercom door entry systems at a cost of $49,195. Item number 3 is professional services to investigate DEP, New Jersey DEP compliance for the removal of underground storage tanks from 1991 at 4 of our school properties, including Pierpont, Lincoln, Washington, and Sylvan. Obviously, there was newly enacted regulations that the district is coming in compliance with. The work would include investigation, testing to identify any contaminants that might be found in the soil, groundwater, and analysis. Reports then to be prepared and provided to New Jersey DEP. The board seeking to engage Brinkerhoff Environmental Services to do this as a licensed site remediation professional at a cost not to exceed $84,420. And then moving on finally to item number 4, the board is seeking, again, investigative site services for site remediation to identify areas of environmental concern at the high school, Union, Pierpont, Lincoln, and Sylvan School for sites of former underground and above ground storage tanks associated with any piping, chemical storage, cabinets, drain collection systems, investigation site per the regulations of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Again, the board is seeking to engage Brinkerhoff Environmental Services at a cost not to exceed $84,560. I put these items forward for discussion initially. I did have a question for either Mr. Hurley or Mr. Kelly regarding timeframe for the response to the environmental testing, if known.
Well, they'll be starting any minute now. As soon as this gets approved,
Sure.
I'll certainly reach out to them and let them know they can get started. So we look to have this work done over the summer. I think that's the plan.
Okay.
While we have a discussion on these three
Yes, sir.
items, just want to bring up that item number 2 will be an entry system with much clearer video of our doors at every building in the district at any entry point, much clearer communication, and also a lot of different controls that would be put into the system to open or lock a door and so on. So it's an upgrade. Our cameras at the doors and our intercoms at the doors were probably put in about 16 years ago, and there's a lot better technology in video and audio
Absolutely.
capabilities now.
So if there's-
Additional questions, I would ask you to please formally move.
Yeah, so I'd like to move items number 3 through 4.
2.
To scratch that, 2 through 4. 2 through 4.
Okay. And seconded by Mr. Healy. Last chance for questions or comments. Having none, ask the secretary to please pull the board on 2 through 4 under building and grounds.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Dr. Oladi?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Librera?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. And now if you would talk us through.
Yeah, so
Motion 1.
item number 1 is the submission of the special ballot question. I'll read parts of this, kind of Summarizing, the board is seeking the authorization to undertake various district-wide improvements, collectively referred to as the project, whereas to accomplish the project, the board seeks authorization of a ballot question and an explanatory statement to special school district election to be held on October the 2nd, 2018, to authorize certain actions required to be taken in connection with the conduct of said election, undertaking the project. Now therefore be it resolved, the board is seeking the following explanatory statement shall be submitted to voters of the district at the special school election to be held again on October 2nd. The project as set forth the proposal below in order to meet the programmatic needs to accommodate the student enrollment, upgrade older facilities systems. The board is seeking to undertake the following projects with all related improvements. Starting with the kindergarten center, to upgrade the renovation, expansion, provide for roof replacement, upgrades to the multipurpose room, including HVAC, playground expansion, installation of an elevator for ADA compliance, renovated service pantry, and additional toilet facilities. At Washington Elementary School, the installation of a new pre-kindergarten playground and renovation of service pantry. At Lincoln Elementary School, upgrade, renovations, and expansion in order to provide for second floor classroom additions, renovation of service pantry, and new playground for pre-kindergarten. At Pierpont Elementary School, upgrades for renovations and expansions in order to provide a new gymnasium with stage, demolition of existing gym to provide new two-story addition and multi-purpose room alterations and upgrades to the renovation to the service pantry. At Union Middle School, to upgrade, renovation, expansion to provide for a new gymnasium, conversion of existing gymnasium space for science labs, ancillary area, and nurse's office, HVAC upgrades to auditorium, floor upgrades, renovated service pantry, and exterior restorations. Rutherford High School, upgrade, renovation, expansion to provide for the conversion of existing cafeteria and faculty dining area to science labs and supporting spaces, conversion of existing science labs and new classrooms, conversion of pool space, and construction for addition to provide cafeteria, central kitchen, and faculty lounge, interior alterations, comprehensive renovations, upgrade the 1957 wing, including the installation of energy-efficient exterior, HVAC, electrical plumbing, and upgrades, and replacement of the multi-purpose physical education field, turf, and bleachers. The board will issue school bonds to fund the project costs over some 25 to 30 years. State funding for the project is estimated to cost $53,015,738. The state has awarded funding in the form of debt service aid to the district in an amount equal to 40% of the final eligible cost of the project, which aid equals to 27.25% of the total cost of the project. The proposal, such state funding rather is only available if this proposal should pass. The proposal, the Board of Education, Rutherford, County of Bergen, New Jersey is authorized to undertake the following. A, upgrade the renovation expansion of the kindergarten center, provide a roof, HVAC, ADA multi-purpose classrooms, playground, toilet, and other facilities improvements. B, installation of pre-kindergarten playground and facility improvements at Washington Elementary School. C, the upgrade, renovation, expansion of Lincoln Elementary School in order to provide classroom, addition, and pre-kindergarten playground facility and facilities improvements. D, the upgrade, renovation, demolition of existing gymnasium and the expansion of Pierpont Elementary School in order to provide for new gymnasium, two-story addition, and multi-purpose room and facility improvements. E, upgrade, renovation, conversion of existing gymnasium and expansion of middle school to provide for new gymnasium, new science labs, and flooring, HVAC, exterior facilities improvements. And F, upgrade, renovation, conversion of pool facility, and expansion of Rutherford High School to provide for new science labs, classrooms, cafeteria, central kitchen, faculty lounge, and interior alterations, comprehensive renovation, and upgrade of the 1957 wing, facilities improvements, multi-purpose physical education field, turf, and bleachers. The board is authorized to expend on such project an amount not to exceed $53,015,738, which expenditure shall be funded with bonds of the school district in the amount not to exceed $53,015,738. The state has agreed to provide debt service aid of 40% of the final eligible costs. The final eligible costs are $36,129,419. The high school project includes $100,815 school facilities construction elements in addition to the facilities efficiency standards developed by the Commissioner of the Department of Education or not otherwise eligible for state support pursuant to NJSA 18A7G-5G. Local shares of each project may be transferred among the projects. 2, the board hereby approves, adopts the proposal, subject to the approval by the legal voters of the school district and hereby determines to carry out the same. So with that, I open it up for board discussion.
So, and a reminder, the reason we're discussing this prior to moving the resolution is once we move it, then to change language, et cetera, would be messy. So, we're able to have an open discussion. If anyone has language changes they would like to propose, if anyone has comments or would like to share their thoughts, this would be the time to do it. Yes, Mr. Rowland.
Yeah, I saw there was concern about the term conversion. It seemed to me that it means to adapt to making a new purpose. I was okay with it, but I would not be adverse to adding a line that says this includes removal of the pool facility to repurpose the building for other uses. In case anyone feels there's confusion about that, either the explanation statement or the proposal.
Just a comment, this language didn't come from the board. This language didn't come from the board, it came from our board council. Correct. How much leeway do we have on what we can and cannot put in there? This is a legal document, we're not.
Right.
Right. I mean, this was, you can explain it better, but we have a bond counsel who constructs the specific language that's appropriate, for, and it's as it must appear on the ballot. So we are somewhat limited, but.
We work with her, Mr. Kelly particularly, maybe I'll let him address it. Obviously, the language and the legal aspect of it is developed by her. Mr. Kelly, what's your thoughts on if we were to amend the language? I just passed the buck.
Yes, and thank you for that. Well, I mean, we can make some changes.
What Mrs. Ahmed said was that she feels you'd have to change every place where conversion is used because it's used frequently throughout the resolution.
We can make minor changes to the wording as long as they don't change the intent.
Can I suggest that we use the term demolition under Section D when we talk about upgrade, renovation, demolition of existing gymnasium.
Well,
under Section F, are we appropriate to, or are we allowed to?
At Pierpont is the existing, if the plan were to go forward and be approved, the existing gym would be demolished.
Correct.
The pool building, the frame of the building, the construction of the building
Sure.
would remain. So,
right.
Now, the interior would be demoed.
Right.
But the exterior would not. So there's a difference with Pierpont's proposal from the pool.
Sure.
The line that Mr. Rowland, could you repeat what you said? Rather than changing the word conversion, you suggested adding a sentence?
Yeah, I felt the word conversion was fine throughout, but for further clarification to add, just for the high school, this includes removal of the pool facility to repurpose the building for other uses.
Or decommissioning.
All I simply was suggesting is between renovation and conversion in F, we add demolition or some other language similar if it's acceptable.
I'd just like to say that I think it's a good comment. Thank you for mentioning it. We definitely want the resolution to be as clear as possible.
I would avoid the word demolition since we're not demolishing the building, but I think if you want to clarify with some other term
Okay.
that we could agree on. But we'd like to, but if we're going to move the resolution tonight, we have to get that term.
And don't misunderstand me. I think I get the concept
No,
of
I'm not-
conversion, just for
No, I get
transparency.
it, but it's, if, I mean, I think Mr. Rowland's suggestion or language is, said very clearly that the interior of the pool is going to be whatever language, I'm having memory.
Thesaurus.
Yes, okay. But I think we don't want to create a misconception to avoid creating a misconception.
I agree.
I have another language suggestion or comment. I think one of the most important aspects of the entire plan is the work that will happen at Pierpont to alleviate the crowding and to add additional classrooms. And while I know the language encompasses this proposal, it doesn't explicitly state so. So Pierpont plans, I believe, call for 11 additional classrooms. I think we should specifically state that in that bullet. So we're saying that we're providing a new gymnasium with a stage, demolition of existing gym to provide new two-story addition, and multipurpose room alterations. So I would think the new two-story addition to add 11 new classrooms, or something along those lines. I think it.
Keep in mind that the wording is such that, obviously, we're held to what's here.
Right.
My concern is if, say it happens that we're able to construct a 12th classroom, then you can't do it.
Okay.
And so I want to just be very clear that we're held to this wording.
Okay, so perhaps we don't need to be so specific with the number and say, but I do think we need to say to provide for additional classrooms, or I would like for it to say to provide for additional classrooms. I think that's an important point of the proposal.
I think that would make sense, the additional classrooms. Maybe keep the number out to Joe's point.
So did we?
We didn't settle the pool thing yet, no.
I don't know.
Mr. Rowland's got to say it a third time. Third time's a charm.
This includes removal of the pool facility to repurpose the building for other uses.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No. It's just that we're not in. We have a period for public comment, and we don't. So we're. My view is that the language throughout for all of the different activities was pretty consistent. I can understand that some people are sensitive to wanting to be very clear about adding additional classrooms is good. About decommissioning the pool could also be done.
Can I get that wording again?
Well, no, I think we can add some work, we can make some alterations, and then it has to go back past our bond council.
Well,
if there's something defective in the language, then we'll have to change it
And we could in July, yeah, we'll still be ahead of the filing date, yes, yeah.
So we can look at a modification,
Kevin.
have bond council review it, yes.
Could we
Mr. Mazzone.
indicate renovation, decommission, and conversion?
Yeah, I
Would
think
that be
that
acceptable?
covers it, I think.
Decommission.
Decommission and conversion of the existing, yes.
That seems to cover it.
It's just upgrade, renovation, decommission, and conversion. We'll leave that, so do away with this.
Right, yeah. Is that okay with you, Mr. Rowland?
I didn't hear it.
So the
final?
proposal to be succinct is to say, F, starting with F, it would say, upgrade, renovation, decommissioning, and conversion of pool facility, and expansion of Rutherford High School, but, the rest as it is.
Sorry, say that again, Kevin?
It would say upgrade, renovation, decommissioning, and conversion of the pool facility.
Upgrade, renovation. Again?
How about this? How about if we just change the order?
I'll make a suggestion. I think I'll make a suggestion that upgrade is not, it could imply the pool. I think conversion is closer to the truth than upgrade. I'll make a suggestion that I think I heard somewhere about the word replacing the interior of the building, right? I mean, if that's clearer than conversion, I don't know if it is or not. We're replacing, the proposal is saying we're replacing a pool with another facility within that structure. We're not demolishing the structure, we're replacing the interior, right? So maybe the replace, I don't know. I think this is a semantic thing. I mean,
Right.
conversion to me, I'm converting a pool to something else. It's not going to be a pool anymore.
Right.
But if that's a problem, we can find words similar that's clearer.
I think the only thing we need to do is just make sure that folks understand what it is that the proposal is suggesting, right? So my only concern about the last version was that the wording sounded a bit confusing.
Too many words.
Yes, too many words. It kind of got lost in it. So I think what we've talked about is upgrading, renovation, and expansion to provide for conversion of existing cafeteria and faculty dining area, that's this area, to science labs and supporting spaces, converting of existing science labs to new classrooms.
Really, I have to ask you to no, but just please understand, we're in session now, we're trying to do our work. We will come up with our best solution, and we will have an opportunity in July, if it comes back that it's defective language, to correct it. Thank you.
I've lost my train of thought, so
Okay.
somebody else want to give it a shot?
What's it?
I had a comment that doesn't have to do with the language. Okay. Just talking about the Strategic Planning and Communication Committee, just being on it and having sat in for, I think it was like 5 hours or so, that we were meeting with, the architect was there, the kitchen design firm was there, and, our conversation for 4 or 5 hours really was, majority of it was around the kitchen, the cafeteria, and the pool, and looking at all of that and how that interacts, and really taking all the feedback from the community, taking the feedback from board, getting all the questions. There were a couple of clarifying points that I just wanted to make, and then maybe a question you can expand on. So when we talked about the square footage of the kitchen and cafeteria, what the kitchen design firm basically said is there was, because there were questions from the community related to the size of the cafeteria and capacity, one of the things we asked about is whether there was flexibility on the square footage of the kitchen to make that a little bit smaller so that the cafeteria could be bigger and hold a larger capacity. And they said there was the flexibility, and they used examples such as storage space that could be lessened, for example, so that potentially the capacity could increase. And so they did look at that, and they did talk about that. I guess the question, so one of the things that came up was that service lot, parking lot and service lot area, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that they said that that actually, with any sort of a one-story or two-story building addition that was considered as an alternative plan, that they would actually have to replace the service lot as well.
they'd have to expand the service corridor into the field.
Right.
They
So,
need that service corridor to the kitchen and the boilers also.
so one of the things the architect mentioned was that you would have to replace the service lot, and that although the one-story building was not going onto the field, the service lot or parking lot does have to be replaced, and then that had no choice but to go on the field because you have to have that. Is that?
That would be with no kitchen.
And, right, and that's with no kitchen. The other thing was, we talked about the idea of an expanded, sort of the idea of the first floor and the second floor renovation without a kitchen, in order not to infringe too much on the field, that if it's sort of a catch-22, because if you expand that, you are making the cafeteria large enough that it's a closed lunch, and then to have a closed lunch, you have to serve lunch. Was that right? And so the kitchen becomes part of the expectation. Was that?
That's part of the feeling that
I'm going to have to bring us back on track, because I don't know if you're suggesting that you want a proposal without the kitchen.
No. I'm not suggesting that.
Okay. If I can, I'd like us just to concentrate on the language.
Okay.
Okay, just for the moment. Okay.
Yeah.
But it was good, because I think during that time we came up with the right solution.
Well, I guess also I just wanted the community here to understand that a lot of time went into looking at the kitchen, the cafeteria, and all of these aspects, and that we were really looking at all of the viable pieces and how they interacted. So,
Thank you. Thank you. So I would like to propose to the board that we change, starting F, we change to decommission and conversion of the pool facility for upgrades, renovation, and expansion of the Rutherford High School to provide for new science labs, classrooms, cafeteria, district central kitchen. I'd like to add district there so it's clear it's not just the high school. Kitchen facility, faculty lounge, and interior alterations, comprehensive renovation, upgrade to the 1957 wing, et cetera, et cetera. Is that okay?
I agree with that.
Okay, so I'll read that one more time. Starting at F, it will say decommission and conversion of the pool facility for upgrades, renovation, and expansion of the Rutherford High School to provide for new science labs, classrooms, cafeteria, district central kitchen, facility, faculty lounge, and, and then it goes on.
But to be that guy, we have to also change, also have to change the explanatory statement above all.
Right.
Which is also part of the ballot.
Right.
The same language.
Same language.
Same language, yep. Yeah. So there it's just going to say, you're talking about on page 24, Greg? So it's going to say decommission and conversion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of the pool space and construction additional, and again, just district central kitchen. And then Mrs. Librera had asked about classrooms, adding language about the classrooms in Pierpont, and we have that in both spots? Yes, okay. Okay, so
with those changes, I would like to put resolution.
Does anybody have any comments they want to make about this prior to us going to the motion? Yes, please.
Just about so it's not about the language, beyond the
Yeah,
language?
just about anything related to the proposal that we'll be voting on shortly.
Okay, so I again would like to thank the entire community for the engaged discussion. I'd like to thank the strategic planning group for the that all the time that was volunteered to exploring every option here, and the board and the administration for all the effort that was put into developing the proposals here tonight. Thank you very much.
Any, yes, Mr. Hussain?
The caveat, everybody, just the caveat that this is upon approval by our bond council.
Yes, we believe we've made innocuous changes and that it will be okay, but if they come back and say, no, you can't say this for this reason, they'll make the technical adjustment, and then we would have to do, in July, look at it again. Okay. Any additional comments? I would like to make a few comments. And echoing Mrs. Libera's thanks to folks, because I think, there's been a number of dedicated and passionate appeals to the board. I want to explain why I cannot go with those appeals for my personal view and my board member view. There's been a comment that this is our taxes, and that the taxes, essentially that the municipal taxes and the school taxes are one. I get that. It's the same dollar I pay to both, but it's as separate as federal and state taxes. The school district levies a tax to the citizens of Rutherford, to the taxpayers of Rutherford. That tax levy is specific to school funding. As an example, someone mentioned the Kid Spot investment that went in, and what a great job it was. It's fantastic. I'll tell you how old this gray hair is. I'm one of the guys that was down there cutting timbers with a chainsaw when we first put Kid Spot in. So I'm glad to see that we're renewing it and that we've expanded it for accessibility. But if somebody had come to the school district and said, isn't this a great opportunity? Can you fund it for us? The answer is, yes, it's a great opportunity. No, we cannot fund it for you. It's a non-school activity. School taxes go to school activities. For me, it's that plain and simple. The second point I'd like to make is that there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of referencing of this pool as a community pool. It is not a community pool. It's the Rutherford High School pool. Even in our contracts with the YMCA refers to it as the Rutherford High School pool. They talk about running community programs in the Rutherford High School pool. But we have to understand the YMCA's definition of community does not mean Rutherford community. But again, even if it were exclusive to Rutherford community, and Rutherford residents had full access to the pool, which they do not, even if it did, it's outside of the mandate and purview of this body, which deals with school matters and school taxes. It's that square. Now, let's talk about the YMCA's offer, because it's been purported that the YMCA has made an offer that takes all of the burden away from the school district. It does not. What the YMCA was presented in December? November, was that we're coming up on a very hard point where we need to put over $1 million into the pool building just to maintain it. We received no response from the YMCA regarding that. We contacted them again in February. We received no response. Finally, you all received an email blast talking about filling the pool with dirt. Obviously incendiary language, intended to raise emotions. It did. It raised mine too, because it was sent about 3 hours before their first response to us. In their response to us, they said, we would like to partner with the school board to be able to maintain the pool. That same day, and you have copies of this now because it was given out under the Freedom of Information Act, yes? That same day, I sent a very succinct message to the YMCA. I said, number one, in that you've asked the residents of Rutherford to come and address the board, I hope you will be here to address the board as well. And what we would like you to tell us is, we talked about 3 scenarios, and we talked about the engineering costs for those scenarios. We said the first scenario is nothing changes, there's this $1 million plus that we need to make the building whole. Is the YMCA prepared to do that? And we noted to them that that would only be a case if we decide not to move ahead with a referendum. Their response that night, when they came, was that they would be prepared to do that in exchange for a 20-year commitment. Okay? This board cannot bind school properties to an outside party for 20 years. You wouldn't want us to do that. You know, what happens 10 years from now when the landscape changes completely and we need that building for something else? Okay? That was the response. The other 2 scenarios that I asked them was, we have gone out trying to find resolution for the pool situation to our engineers and architects, and we have 2 proposals. One would eat up about 15% of the athletic field, single-story building, accomplish the rest of the deliverables of the plan. That would cost about $2.5 million. The second one would deliver all of the deliverables of the plan. It would require a 2-story new addition. That would cost $5.9 million. Engineering estimates. I asked the YMCA to tell us if they would fund that, because we have a plan in place with deliverables. We have a plan how to achieve it. Any extra cost beyond that is an additional tax to the school taxes of Rutherford in the future through the form of a bond, and it would be for non-school activities. The pool today is used about 120 hours a year for school activities. The rest of the time, it's used by the YMCA, and please, I have nothing against the YMCA. It can be, you know, use another name, another non-profit, not-for-profit organization that has to run profitable programs. Okay? We have nothing against the YMCA. They just happen to be the one that's been involved with this. Okay? But for whoever it is, you're asking the board to approve an additional $6 million, 5.9, it doesn't matter if it's 5 or 6 or 4.5. You're asking for approval of funds that would go to a non-school entity to run an operation that's a profit-making operation for them. I hope you can see that that's not really a dilemma. We can't, that's outside of our mandate. It's outside of our authority. So I appreciate, personally, this is just my view, I appreciate all of the passion, all of the dedication. But for me, I will be voting to support this resolution because I believe it's big. I don't think the idea should be to try to make it bigger. It's the biggest thing we've ever asked for the taxpayers of Rutherford. You know, 15 years ago, they stepped up and provided about half this amount. The taxpayers of Rutherford did that. And many of us in this room, our children benefited from that. My children are gone. I'm not going to benefit from this. I live across from one of the schools. My life's going to be disrupted for 2 years. But this is what's right for our schools. And I believe firmly in that, and I will support it even though it has a negative impact on me personally, because this is what our schools need. That was my comment before we moved the resolution. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to comment as well. So you know, as I know many of you were here at last month's meeting where each of us talked about our personal opinions with respect to the entire proposal as we saw it and all of the input that we've heard and that folks have again volunteered their time to share with us in one form or another. I also will be voting in support of the proposal tonight, and the reason why is because I think it does what the district needs in terms of growing programs for students, providing enhanced learning facilities for them, and adding capacity in the building for more programs and more students. I think that's our core responsibility as board members, as we've discussed on numerous occasions, is to grow educational opportunities for the students in the district and to do it in a cost-effective way. I agree with the position that Kevin stated, that to essentially ask the taxpayers to fund a bigger referendum so that we can keep a pool that is only used by our high school swim team for 2 months of the year is beyond the scope of what I'm comfortable doing as a board member. It is not the appropriate way to pass along such a proposal to the community, not in a school referendum, because it's not primarily a school facility and it doesn't primarily offer opportunities for kids through the school system. And I say this as a swimmer. I'm a swimmer. I use the pool. I live across the street. It is certainly something that I would like to see continue. But here, as a board member, our responsibility is to do what we think is best for the students and what's best for the district. And for those reasons, I'm supporting the proposal tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Burr. Any other members have a comment before we move the resolution? No? I would ask you, please, to formally move the resolution. There's no need to reread it.
No.
Got it.
Subject everyone to that again. So at this point, I would put forward resolution number 1, the submission of the special ballot question.
One point of clarification I had?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, can we get a second and then we'll get...
sorry.
Yeah, since it's...
Second.
Yeah. So we'll have another chance. Seconded
Second.
by Mrs. Rivera. Any questions or comments or clarifications?
Thank you. Hope this works again. Right. So just explain, so, for people who are reading, it says the final cost of $36,129,000. Right. Why in our documentation we have $40.5 million? Right.
I believe that's the eligible.
The 36 million, I'm not sure what you're referring to with the
This is the
40
final
million,
eligible-
but I've double-checked the number that's in here, the
Oh, yeah,
36 million.
Right.
And that reflects the fact that, as we've discussed, that for new construction, the state's debt service aid will only apply to the first $143 per square foot of new construction. If it costs more than that, which it will, then that's on us. So that brings the effective debt service aid down. Does that answer your question?
I thought that's at the full 40%, but they may not fund.
That's
they-
a different thing.
Yeah, that's different.
Okay, so that's the number that we funded, that is eligible for the 40% debt service aid, but the Assembly has only been funding those things at 85% now. So, yeah, there's several layers of
Mr. Kelly, that's the eligible cost for funding. Then the percentage of that would be subtracted from the referendum to get, is that what we're at? Or is that, I think what Greg's talking about, Dr. Racine's talking about is what would be the real cost to the taxpayer of the referendum, as opposed to eligible cost.
Well, I think it's important to note here that and this is the language that's going on the ballot, is that the board has to approve the entire amount just in case the state aid changes. So it's the 53 million.
Right, yeah, I understand.
Okay, so...
But he said, there's a little confusion, eligible cost means.
The eligible costs reflect the fact that new construction, the 50 million includes all-in costs for all our new construction that's in the plan. 36 million now reduces that by the amounts over $143 per square foot.
Right.
Is that?
Yeah, and the final taxpayer cost, it's not 53 million, it's 40.5, right? After we get
Well,
state
it would
aid.
be, if...
It's not in there,
yeah,
but
we
it's
don't know.
not in there.
We don't know
We
what
get
the
that,
funding,
yeah,
right,
right.
we don't know what the funding would be, but it would be
right.
40% of that number.
Yes.
It'd be 40%, and then the state would fund that probably at about 85%. I am working on revising numbers and double-checking all the numbers, and I'll be putting things up on the website as I'm hoping for a better analysis too than what's up there right now, but, so, this will all become clearer, but this is the
Right.
language that has to
So
be.
I was trying to say, is that's the eligible cost for
Right.
debt reduction, then we would subtract that percentage from the 53 million.
Right, that's not the full taxpayer cost we're getting at. Right.
But
We have to bond for that. Right.
Any other questions, clarifications, or comments? Ask the secretary to please pull the board.
Mrs. Ahmed,
Yes.
Dr. Olati,
Yes.
Mr. Healy,
Yes.
Mrs. Jones,
Yes.
Mrs. Librera,
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone,
Yes.
Dr. Racine,
Yes.
Mr. Rowland,
Yes.
Mr. McLean.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Continuing on with the agenda, we move to we're just getting into all the appointments. We should be done by 11. Good night. Okay, so moving on to the board operations, or appointments and operations. So actually, who normally takes this?
I think the Vice President.
The Vice President? Congratulations.
All right.
Mrs. Rivera, would you please walk us through this?
Yeah, sorry. I'm on page...
We're on page 28.
20, gosh, I'm on page 33. Hang on. Okay, so the first item is the approval of, or the adoption of the Code of Ethics.
Excuse me for just a second. Would you explain the purpose?
Yeah, the purpose of all the motions from here on in, from page 28 to 43, are as we head into a new fiscal and school year, 2018-19, this provides the administration with the framework to proceed on July 1st. So most of the vast majority of all this is a carry forward from last year, but we need to get it on the record with the board approving
Right.
all of this.
So, so I do think, though, we do take some time to actually read through the Code of Ethics.
I was going, so what we've been doing in the last couple of years is, as we have new members come on in January, because we're out of sync now, right?
Okay.
We used to be in sync with this. But since our school year will start before the new members might join, we've been doing at that swearing-in meeting,
Okay.
going through these. So I think the fact, and in fact, all of us at this table read through them this past January. So I would just
Okay.
put them in the record, and that should be good for now.
Okay, so then what I would like to do is move the 2018-19 appointments and operations, board operations motions included in number 1, the adoption of the Code of Ethics. Can we move to the board secretary piece too, all in one? Okay. To the approval of the board secretary to conduct the organization meeting, and 3, the approval of the parliamentary procedure.
And then on the next page
Yeah.
is another list.
And then on the next page, that's the appointments and designations. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. Is that right? The appointments and designations, items 1 through 26. Then we have the district operations, items 1 through 20. And that is the full set of motions. So I would move then all motions listed under those three main categories of code of ethics, board secretary to conduct organization, parliamentary procedure, appointments and designations, and district operations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Racine? Oh, Mrs. Jones. It's louder. Any comments or questions from the board members? Yes, Mr. Rowland.
Number 20, bank accounts. I see
Under
we have-
which section? This one, last one.
The last page,
Last page, yes.
20.
Everything else is up. Under the bank accounts, I see we have one community bank under scholarships. I was curious how we can start the process, or to just use community or local banks as opposed to Wells Fargo.
Well, that's something I would love to do. We ended up with BCB Community Bank because my predecessor 8 or 10 years ago had gone out and looked to change banks. We had all our accounts with Bank of America at the time. The decision was made then, and after going through the process, the bidding process, and looking at the proposals, the decision was made to go to Wells Fargo, with the exception of the scholarship account, because Bank of America had a particular report, a monthly report on the scholarship accounts that helped us out in terms of reconciling the accounts on a monthly basis. So the decision was made to leave it there. Well, about a year and a half ago, Bank of America basically called us up and told us to get out. So we had to find another bank. So I did want to give BCB, because in my conversations with them, they are very competitive. I know they are very community-oriented, and certainly wanted to give them a shot, and that's why there's a difference here. I would love to go out to bid again and look at other banks. Unfortunately, it's a time-consuming process, and there's certain times of the year you want to do it. You know, for example, if I want to move the payroll account, I need to do that in the summer when there are relatively few people in before it starts screwing up everybody's payroll. So that's something that's on my plate. It's on my list of things to do, but I'm just not there yet.
Any additional comments or questions? No? Ask the secretary to please poll the board.
Mrs. Ahmed?
Yes.
Dr. Alati?
Yes.
Mr. Healy?
Yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Librera?
Yes.
Mr. Mazzone?
Yes.
Dr. Racine?
Yes.
Mr. Rowland?
Yes.
Mr. McLean?
Yes.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you. It is 9:50, and we open, or well, wait, first, excuse me, I'm sorry, ask any old or other business that a board member would like to
I
raise?
have a little bit longer legislative update, but the time is getting late.
Before we do that, any other issue that a board member wants to propose, activity or discussion on? No? Legislative update, please?
I'll just do one item, and that's the gun safety measures law that Phil Murphy signed into this package on June 13th. The Delegates Assembly addressed that when we went down, when Mr. Healy and I went down. And it was Mr. Healy's first, and I thought I would just give him an opportunity to explain what it was.
Yeah, thank you for the explanation. Mrs. Jones is the delegate, I'm the alternate, but it was a very impressive session, having this auditorium, Merced Community College, filled, and very passionate discussion. But, I just related to it that it's, not to say it's a low level of government, but certainly in the process itself, which leads into passing of legislation. So it was-
And they're going with the wording that we had too. It was a long discussion, and they stuck with New Jersey School Boards Association wording. I'll address these at the next meeting, because we had the superintendent's evaluation. and that's it.
And three other things, too.
Yeah. So thank you for that. And I would, at 9:52, open the meeting to public comment again, for anyone who cares to comment.
Kevin Duggan, 469 Stuyvesant Avenue. Obviously, as you would expect, I'm very disappointed with your vote. I'm sure that's not a surprise to you that it would be. I do respect your decision. I especially appreciate Ms. Libera's explanation and others for why you reached that decision. And I respect that. Open, honest, clear explanation is critical to the public discourse. It's very important that everybody understands how you reach those decisions. And I think the more open you can become, because I think I certainly have felt a lot of discussions are occurring and not all the information has been shared, but I know you're doing a lot of work, and it's a little frustrating when we're on the other side of the wall and we can't partake in that. So the more you can do to open some of that up, and I know you've got challenges and you can't get into debates, I understand that, and you wouldn't want to, but the more you can find a way to make it more transparent, the better. It's not easy, I understand that. I think somebody said at the last meeting, one of the last meetings, might have been you, people with good intentions will look at the same set of data and reach different conclusions. Obviously, you've looked at this set of data, you've reached one conclusion. I've reached a different conclusion. And while I respect your opinion, I hope you also respect my opinion and the opinion of hundreds of people who have voted for the petition. And we've said and we've been clear that we believe very strongly why the pool is critical and why it's important. Not everybody who voted for the petition will vote against the proposal. I will. Many people will. Many people who have not made their opinion known will also vote against it. And I strongly hope that the sentiments that were shared at the previous meeting will continue through this, that you respect the opinions of the people who reached a different conclusion. I think that's very important for the discourse that we're going to have through the summer and through the vote. And I think it's also a teachable moment for all our kids who are closely watching all of this to see how people can disagree. And this is America. It's okay for us to disagree. Nobody's going to get shot. We'll reach different conclusions as long as we do it respectfully. And however the vote may fall, the vote will fall, and we'll live with the consequences. And that's okay. I also very much appreciate the discussion you had about language, because I think language is critical. Thank you for having that discussion, and for actually, I think it's the first piece of feedback that you've acted on, specifically from the pool people, where people who wanted to save the pool, that you're making a change to the language, specifically because people were asking, saying the language as it was stated wasn't clear. Some people could have read it and thought that they were actually getting a pool improvement. So I thank you for making the changes, and I hope, however it's finally worded, stays, that it is clear for everybody who votes that it is the destruction of the pool. Sensitive, incendiary language, people are being sensitive. You could look at that both ways. You could say that it's incendiary to say that the pool is just being converted. You could say that people are not sensitive, they're very concerned and very, they really believe very strongly in the benefits of the pool. I don't think that makes us sensitive. Every vote counts, and it's been said several times, so it's unfortunate that it is an October referendum. I know you said that there's a lot of outreach planned and a lot of, it's going to be summer, so people are not going to be paying attention. But I hope and pray that we will have the highest turnout possible for this, because whatever the decision, for or against, we want everybody voting. And the more people that vote, the more representative it is of the opinions. Thank you.
Thank you.
I still need to introduce my name. Hisham Mahmoud, 259 Orient Way. I echo what Kevin said. I came in here almost knowing what the final decision will be. To me, that was apparent 4 or 5 months ago. But yet, I'm still disappointed. I want to thank the board. Like someone here said, you may think you're doing a good job, but you can do better. But my special thanks to Mr. Rowland and to you. Thank you so much for bringing the issue about the language. Like Kevin said, finally, you listen to something that Save the Pool people or the residents of this town are saying. My concern now, we were told by you, Mr. McLean, my understanding at the beginning that the language could not change. This is a Bible, it's written by an attorney, we cannot change it. Either vote for it or not. At least that's what I understood. Now, we changed the language, and yet, still, the board voted for it. That's one point. My concern is, with that language, if you don't specify 11 classes, thank you to you for bringing this point, what prevent the board, the superintendent, the administrator from using this money, and 3 years from now, we don't find ourselves with 12 classes in Pierpont, 2 classes in Pierpont. Historically, that had happened, and I'm not accusing anyone here. But
let me just interrupt you for a minute, because Mr. Dugan made a very good point about being respectful and about not taking shots at people.
I'm not taking shots at anyone. I'm asking a question, Mr. Helmy.
I'm going to I've been quiet most of the night. I'm going to answer that question.
Yes.
Because the plans that were submitted to the state of New Jersey are what we can use money for.
Yes.
We cannot use that money for anything else. And the plans that were submitted to the state of New Jersey calls for the renovations at Pierpont to be the way they are spelled out. The ballot cannot possibly include every item of 2 binders full of plans. And there will be a month long or a month and a half long, maybe 15 to 18 community meetings. There'll be flyers for every school and the total project. There'll be the website, which as early as tomorrow afternoon will be updated with new information. So people will know what the plan is. But to say that this superintendent or my successor or this board or their successor are going to somehow violate state law.
Mr. Helmy,
No, that's what you said.
Don't misinterpret my word, Mr. Helmy. Go ahead,
That's what you
finish.
said.
And I will have the opportunity to comment.
So if
Yes.
we're going to have respectful dialogue,
Yes.
which I have always tried to do,
Yes.
until this moment perhaps, I hope it goes both ways.
Mr. Helmy, if I misspoke, that's something else. All what I was saying is, and he didn't let me finish, yes, this fund has been, will be, maybe for this project. What I'm saying is, why can't we be specific about certain item? I'm just echoing what one board member said and make it 11 classes. Let me finish, please, Mr. Hawley. You spoke about respecting, so I can make my point clear. I can make my point clear in 2 words. All what I'm saying is, historically, and I'm saying fact, in this school, you weren't the superintendent of election, of school back then. There was budget to buy a school bus. Okay? For whatever reason, after the voters voted, that budget was allocated to something else. I'm talking about historic fact. I'm not taking a shot at you or at any board member. I respect that board. I have a lot of personal friends here. All what I'm saying is here, one, let's just make, what would prevent us from, why not to do that? My second point is, for the proposal, in almost every budget proposal, I see something at the end that states taxpayer impact. Your tax will increase $1 a month. Your tax will increase $5 a month. I don't see that in the proposal, so I'm not sure if the board intention to add that later on. My last point, I tried to follow as much when the proposal was read. In the one I have, in the copy I have, I could not find any reference to authorizing the administrator to bond for 25 to 30 years. I may have missed it, but I can tell you, in the copy I have, I don't. This is the first time I hear about 25 to 30% bonding. All what you've been hearing before, all the information we see on your website, on the facility website, is 20 to 25 years bonding. Respect is granted. I do respect you. Just because I disagree with you, that doesn't mean disrespect.
Mr. Kelly answered your question about why it would be not the best thing to list 11 classrooms, because when we go to schematic plans, which are more detailed drawings, and then we could carve out a 12th classroom, okay, now we wouldn't be able to do that because we're bound by the ballot, not so much by the plans. The schematic plans will change. We talked about that with the kitchen, with the cafeteria, things like that. So if you get too specific, again, this is not this board or me or Mr. Kelly, this is bond counsel lawyers who are advising us how specific we should get or not get. You used the term of, I don't know what Beckton did with their bus, and it's not really my concern. And you mentioned about taxpayer. You're confusing, I think, a referendum with a budget. Okay, when this board approves a budget and things are in budget line items, there are times perhaps when things arise that, you know, the roof blows off and we have to delay using money that was earmarked for something else in order to take care of an emergent repair. That is different than a referendum where the money is tied specifically to the projects that were submitted. So there's a difference. And in terms of how much it would cost the taxpayer, there's a difference because we're talking not about something that's in this year's budget. We're talking about something that we are going to go out to, if the referendum passes, we'll go out to bonds. We'll have to see what the rates are at that time. We'll have to see, and the 25 or 30 year is dependent upon the analysis of the life of the building. Some will be bonded at different years for that. So it's not as easy, not that the budget is easy, it's not as easy as a single year budget.
So the referendum will not include approximate taxpayer increase?
The referendum on the website has, as based on those figures right now, approximate taxpayer per average house per $100,000 of assessed value. Those figures will be updated as we go through the process, as Mr. Kelly answered earlier. He's going to be updating them shortly based on the most recent estimates we got from our financial advisor and from the bond council.
Okay.
But if you're going to buy a house and you think you're going to buy it in a year and you get an approximation of what your mortgage will be based on today's rates, until we go out to bond, we will not know the exact figure. But we're having two different experts, the financial advisor and the bond counsel, working with us to get the best guess of where we're going to be at the time we go out.
So if I understood you correctly, when it goes out, it will have something or not for the taxpayer to know roughly on the ballot? I'm talking on the ballot.
The ballot will be as you see it.
As I see it. Right. No. Right. And for why do I don't see, I think like different copy that was read, I don't see 25 to 30 years bonding in my document.
Yeah, that was removed, and through discussion with the board, we put that back in. It was removed because the bond counsel and our architects are still going back and forth of what that actual number is. So I didn't want to put something on the agenda that was not correct. So as Mr. Mazzone mentioned, the bond will be somewhere between 25 and 30 years, but that's still being fine-tuned.
Okay, I just want to make it, for the record, it's not disrespectful to point something that was missing for a document. Thank you so much.
Just real quick, Palmer, Yale, 199 Woodland Avenue. There may be a couple other folks talking, I don't know, but I just want to say again, as I've said after in the last few meetings, thank you. Thank you all for your time, for your efforts. I'm happy that the proposal is going to go forth as written here. I know I speak for a lot of people in this town, hundreds, maybe thousands. We have faith in the administration. We have faith in the board. This process, it's been hard already, and really it's just starting because it's going to be a bit of a lift to get this passed. We all know that. And I just can't tell you enough how appreciative I am for your hard work and for doing the most good for the most people. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello again. Mr. Zura earlier asked if I was a member of a committee. I just wanted to put it on the record. 3 years ago, I sat on the Strategic Planning Committee, not on the Steering Committee, which I think is what he was referring to, which is the committee that'll move forward now that the referendum will happen. But I just wanted to put it on record that, yes, 3 years ago I did sit on that committee, and I wanted to thank you all tonight. And also just to one more time go back to talking about whether or not someone could feel comfortable to stand up here and disagree with their boss. I've known Mr. Hurley a long time. There are times we have disagreed, but never once have I felt afraid to disagree with him. And I just wanted it, again, on record from my standpoint now as an employee, as a supervisor in the district, that no matter what I think, I know I can always be honest with him, and he'll be straight up with me. We will disagree, but it's never at a point where I've ever felt like I had to do something because he wanted me to. So I just wanted that on record since we're all being respectful.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
It's timely as well because one of the things we have to do is Mr. Hurley's evaluation when we go into executive session.
So maybe I should have kept quiet the entire night. You have erasers, right, that you could change things?
Hello again, Jim Bonanno, 176 Carmita Avenue. I was just wondering if somebody could address the October 2nd date for the election that I referred to, because maybe one of the first meetings that I went to, the reasoning was given that there were some better interest rates. And then a next meeting, I think it was the architect said it had to do with timeline, which 4 weeks out of a 3 or 4 year project, I think we could all agree, is really minimum. So I know that in the state of New Jersey, it's legal to have early elections, and it's always been something that bothered me, because I think in some situations, it's a good thing when it's necessary. But I also know that it's become a play in a playbook to try to pass referendums, because people know that a lot of people don't come out to vote for specific referendums. And that's my concern. I know it's like a big, it's democracy, this and that, but I take it seriously. I really do. And I think we all could agree that there's been so many that have sacrificed so much so that we have an opportunity as a community to come together and make a tough decision. And I know, I'm sorry.
No, I'll answer your question.
Okay.
Finish
And I know that as leaders in the community, sometimes you're stuck between a bad choice and a worse choice. I could relate to that, and I understand that. But my hope is that we're not doing this early to try to prevent, or in the hope that less people will come out to vote, because it's contrary to everything that we stand for, everything I stand for, and I think everything you stand for. So I hope it's not that play from the playbook. I know for a fact, because I've checked I think you would agree, it has nothing to do with interest rates and timelines. Because of 4 weeks, we went through construction at my school. It went over and over and over. So a month has nothing to do with a 3 or 4 year project,
well,
from what I understand.
Well, okay. Bond counsel advised that we might get a chance to make a better judgment of whether December or January provide better rates. Some years it's the end of the year, some years the beginning of the year. What the architect said about getting ready for summers are key time to get school projects done. We will be, if the referendum goes through, we'll be doing major construction in every building but Washington School, and we have to keep open, and we have to keep 180 plus days open. I could say this because it's not a secret. I was at a security training this week over at Beckton, and I was with the superintendent from Westwood, who had a referendum last December, about 2 weeks, 3 weeks past what the November date would be, or thereabouts, give or take, maybe, okay? I think the election was like November 8th, and they went like December 2nd or something like that. I asked him how it was going with the summer, and he said they're not ready to do anything yet because they weren't able to get the plans done and get out to bid, and so they're going out to bid. They went out to bid with some projects last month. The reason for that is, like in most businesses, the month of December and into January, not much happens. So by getting an earlier start, we can get the ball rolling and hit the ground running so that we don't lose that summer. If you lose a summer, you're setting your plan back now 3 or 4 months, you're setting it back a full year or more. Okay, so that's the goal there. As far as getting people out to vote, we will be reaching out, me, Mr. Kelly, some of the board members, some of the committee of citizens, will be reaching out this summer to every community group there exists in Rutherford with letters, with a list of meeting dates. We'll be having 2 to 3 meetings on 2 or 3 days a week from late August, or at least from early September to the day of the vote, and invite everyone out to those. We'll be having a meeting at the mayor and council if they accept our offer to come and have a meeting at their meeting. We'll be at the Labor Day Street Fair. We'll be at everything we could be at from late August into September. We'll be doing text and email and web postings and Facebook postings to as many people that we can reach 10 to 12 days before the vote. We'll have flyers to distribute wherever we can distribute them. We have a team of citizens, community members, who have already volunteered to work with Dr. Valechko and I throughout the summer to get ready. Dr. Valechko and I have a standing Monday meeting every week so that we can get communication out. You heard someone said, I don't know if it was Mr. McLean, one of the board members say we want to get people out to vote, and we certainly do. But we want people coming out to vote. We don't want to politicize it. We don't want people saying, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican, so I'm against or for taxes. We also do not want, I've missed one vote in my life since I was 18 years old, this past primary. It's the only one I missed. But I will admit, I'm not proud to admit, that there are many times in the November election when there's those questions, those proposals, that I go in and I really haven't given it much thought. And I vote yes or no because I think it might be good or I think it might raise my taxes. We don't want people to make the decision yes or no based on an afterthought when they get in the ballot. I would hope that we get the same or better turnout than comes out in November, but I would hope that everybody who goes there has read, researched, attended meetings, and has an opinion. So it's not decided up or down by people who just went in and as an afterthought pulled the ballot. That's my honest answer. I think there's three. We got advice. This is not, again, me or Mr. Kelly or Mr. McLean or Ms. LeBrere. This is the advice we got from council. But my gut is not to get the vote to go one way or the other. My vote is to have an informed electorate vote. And we're going to do everything in my power to make sure we reach as many people from mid-August on. It won't be a secret. Tomorrow, Mr. Kelly and I met with the folks who designed our webpage last week, and we made changes in anticipation should this vote go the way it did tonight, so that tomorrow, sometime during the day, a message will go out to every parent in town and say, go check out our website. The board's now decided to go forward with the referendum. We made some changes to the website. We're not trying to hide anything, okay? But those are the reasons why it was done, okay?
May I comment?
Sure.
So would you acknowledge the fact that less people do come out to vote for an early election? I think it's a fact.
I mean, I think historically you could look and maybe say that's true, but I'm telling you, we're going to do everything we can to change that. I also can tell you that we've gotten the voter turnout. I don't have them with me, so I'm not going to even give an estimate of the elections in the borough. And aside from the last presidential election, not many were very good. And some of the primaries versus the general, there was a few percentage points different. We haven't done an April school board election in a long time. When we did, the turnouts were low, but they were low. They were about the same as some of the off-election year turnouts in November. So we're going to do. I mean, I gave you an answer. We're going to do everything we can to get the word out. Obviously, the folks who have been very well passionate and organized, right? You're making sure people know about the vote. We're going to make sure people know about the vote. I would be very happy to get a very large turnout because then I would feel that it won with the support of a large number of people, or I would feel it lost not because of a few folks who felt this way or that way, but because a lot of people thought it wasn't valuable. That would be my goal. So we're on the same page in terms of wanting the vote out, and I'm hoping to have a relatively restful summer so I have the energy to run around in the month of September because I don't run around much anymore, and get the vote up. We're going to try to get people out. And I would appreciate, the talking and the conversation will get people aware. I'm certainly not going to say I would appreciate people going down and say, hey, come out and vote. No, I mean, I don't, I'm here to see it succeed. But we want people to come out to vote.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comment from public? Having none, we will close the floor to comment at 10:16. And Mrs. Vice President, would you move us into executive session? We need to discuss two student matters and two employee matters, two personnel matters.
Okay. Move that.
We will be gone the better part of an hour. No action to be taken, or is that considered action?
No.
No action to be taken.
Okay. I'll move that we move into executive session to discuss two personnel matters and two student matters. no action will be taken, and we expect to be in executive session for the better part of an hour. I move that.
Someone second? Second by Mr. Racine. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're going to executive session.